San Diego number one, US Eagle, USA Sevens, Arizona Wildcat, Ryan Matyas. That's awesome to see you, buddy.
Yes, thanks for having me. Appreciate you.
I know I'm late to the party, but congrats, 50 caps. That's fantastic.
Thank
Nothing
you.
to shake a stick at.
It's exciting, man. It's cool that the league is recognizing the first 50 players to hit that mark and to kind of recognize the guys who are been on the ground floor to help building the league. And obviously there are a handful of guys who have other opportunities to go away and play in other leagues, and the guys who choose to stick around here. I mean, realistically, my opportunities came before the Legion to go overseas to Japan and Scotland. But once I made the decision about, sinking my teeth into and putting my heart into growing American rugby, there's really no looking back. And, obviously the way that, the Legion has treated me over the years, I was really never going to go anywhere.
How do you feel about being recognized as such an integral part of San Diego, but also as like an integral part of the MLR? I mean, you're the first signing for San Diego. That's a huge thing. You got picked first.
Yeah, well, I don't know if it was picked first or I was the only one that didn't have anything else going to say yes to. But no, it was obviously it's really humbling, and maybe I quite don't see it or understand it to that magnitude, but it's just been it's been amazing to be a part of, especially to be a kid who grew up and played all of my my youth rugby in college rugby here in America. To be able to have the opportunity to play professionally in the United States. I'm just excited for what the future holds, especially for these kids growing up who, all the kids who've been coming to our Legion games, you know, all the people who can see it on TV, those kids can resonate with that team and go, I'm from San Diego, I want to play for the Legion, or I'm from Seattle, I want to play for the Seawolves. They can see it; it's right there for them. And I know that all the teams do a really good job of getting out in the community to show the community and show local sports kids that, hey, rugby is accessible, it's right here, like you can touch it, you can see it, you can meet these players, and that's going to be the difference.
You had a young career. I mean, your dad played, correct?
Correct, yeah, yeah.
Uh, I have looked high and low, my man. I cannot find what he played for or what he was doing. But can you
Tucson
explain what
Magpies. Yeah, so my
Magpies?
dad,
Okay.
so this is actually an interesting story. So my dad went to Arizona State University. My dad grew up in Scottsdale, Arizona, and he ended up going to Arizona State. And my dad had played football, didn't really like it, the culture. Played football at Chaparral High School. Anyways, his freshman year, he's out running sprints on the lawn of Arizona State University. And some guy comes up to him and goes, "Hey, man, like, you should play rugby." And my dad's like, I don't know, like, what's rugby? I don't, I play football. I played football. And he's like, oh, well, you're out here, you're running, like, you seem pretty quick. Like, rugby would definitely be your sport. My dad's like, I don't know, man. Like, I don't know what it is. And nah, no thanks. So a couple weeks go by, and my dad's walking through his dorm, and the same guy goes, dude, you got to come check out rugby, man. Like, my dad was just coming back from the gym, and he's like, it gives you a purpose, gives you a reason to come, to go to the gym and run and work out, team culture, and da 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 da. So my dad was like, you know what? This is the second time I've seen this guy. He's like, all right, fine, I'll go. I'll go to rugby practice. When is it? Where is it? Oh, it's at this park at this time. I was like, all right, I'll go. My dad goes out, and then he absolutely loves it, right? My father was in high school, he's like a D lineman, O lineman, and never got to touch the ball. And then all of a sudden, like, people were wanting him to get the ball, so he absolutely loved it. And but that guy wasn't at practice, so my dad kept going and obviously stuck with and kept playing. My dad never saw that guy again, never. So it's one of those, like, weird, like, call it like a rugby angel, almost like one of those weird moments where you're like, that was kind of strange. So my dad started playing, he played for Arizona State University, and then he went on to play for the Tucson Magpies. And he played for the men's Arizona select side, and then played in tournaments in Aspen and stuff like that. But my dad, he never really took it as serious as I did. I mean, my dad was his friends would say, obviously he had quote unquote the stuff, but my dad was never really interested in doing anything with it. He loved rugby for the culture aspect side of it, the camaraderie, you know, the the going to the bars and stuff like that. And but and that's where kind of my heart of the culture side of things really comes from, is from my father. And him teaching our youth rugby team, because he coached our youth rugby team from when did we start? 2003. So yeah, he joined the staff, and yeah, about 2003 on. And he was obviously really big on the culture aspect, but not only that, but obviously building players outside of the game. Like, yeah, there is the X's and O's, but there's also like the development of the person off the field. Teaching you about life through rugby. So that's kind of like my roots and my culture or I guess my roots of my background on like.
Is that why you chose rugby over like other sports when you were younger? I mean, you talk about, I've watched other interviews of you talking about being a scrum half at that age and not your dad not wanting you to run the ball and you getting your first try and all that kind of stuff happening. What made you then go, it's just rugby? Or was it not that and it just stuck with you? How did that go?
So at 13 years old, when I saw that like USA 7 stadium rugby, that was it. Bam, I'm in. Because I got to see it. I got to touch it. I got to feel it was there. It was reality. I can see that event and be like, that's where I want to be. I want to be playing in this stadium. I want to represent my country. So pretty much at that age, I made the decision that this is what I wanted to do, and I was going to do it at all costs.
Dude, that's exactly why I take my boys to the games because I want them to feel it, I want them to see it, and I want them to be a part of it.
Speaking from my personal experience, I know your kids will always remember those moments and those trips, the times that you take out for them to, have that one-on-one time. And, that was obviously a big relationship builder for my father and I, being able to have that, that sport in common. And I know it's not easy for a lot of people. I know there's a lot of, rugby dads that want their kids to play and maybe their kids aren't quite interested, but I was fortunate enough that him and I had that piece in common.
Well, no joke, man. I didn't even know. Like, I think the only time that I ever got exposed to rugby before I turned 20 was Tommy Boy because he comes off
Yeah.
the plane wearing a rugby jersey and being like, "Oh,
Yep.
that's kind of weird." So, what'd you think of your time in Aberkenfig?
Um, it was special. It really was, man. I mean, the Welsh rugby culture is so rich and so tight. There's such a tight knit group of players and boys, and man, I they really brought me in and made me feel like I'd been there and played with all those guys since under eights. They really genuinely made me feel like I grew up there. And it was my, being from Tucson, that was my first taste of cold weather rugby. And, you know, uh, bit of a culture shock. The Welsh culture is very different. You think of like, oh, everyone in the UK, like, yeah, you're English, right? It's just like, no, no, that is not the case. Very different, very rich in their own culture, their own history, and their own language. And just so proud to be Welsh, and that pride in the country is something that obviously, really resonated with me. I mean, I've had, grandparents serve in the military, and I have brothers that serve in the military. So I really, really connected and resonated on that note, that pride in country. And um, yeah, it was amazing. The experience that I got, the ability to play, quality rugby week in and week out around guys who've been playing since they were 6 years old. And it wasn't necessarily that that the coaching was, I mean, obviously the coaching was good, but I was being coached in practice and in games by guys around me. And even though I'd been playing touch rugby since I was 8, I only was playing, I mean, I was playing rugby at the age of 12 years old. But it was around guys who didn't know how to play, and we had coaches who knew how to play, but you and I both know a coach can only teach you so much. So having that ability to be surrounded by players who are coaching you while you're in it, and having that experience all around you, and learning from those guys, not just from what they say, but from what they do. Um, that was a huge part of my development.
Is that what led you to actually go out there? Was that you wanted that kind of experience or that higher level of competition?
Yeah, yeah. So I had I saved up my money and worked through. I was kind of high school. I wasn't as motivated to be a student. I was really driven just to be an athlete, and I kind of thought, well, if I'm going to be an athlete, I don't need to be in school. So I dropped out and started my own little landscaping business, and used that money to go to the gym and buy my rugby cleats and gear and stuff like that. And I really wanted to go play like overseas, and we had a club connection with someone who played at the University of Arizona. Dave Sitton, he had taken the team over to Wales, and so we had a contact. I believe it's John Barry, if I'm getting the name correct, at Tondy, and so the University of Arizona had played against Tondy's second team or first team way back in the '80s or something like that, and so I wanted to try and get an overseas experience and play a bit of rugby overseas before I really sunk my teeth into college and stuff like that, and got tied down with responsibilities.
What had you then go to North Harbor, Auckland?
Through the advice of Salty Thompson, he'd said, "Hey man, this is your choices are at the time it was go to New York was a very established New York Old Blue, very established club, or go check out Seattle, same thing, they're very established. Colorado." And again, I thought at that point, I've always really wanted to go to New Zealand. Actually, when I came back from Wales, my plan was to, play the Summer Sevens series with Tempe and like the SoCal qualifiers, and then go directly to New Zealand. And I had torn my ACL after I got back from Wales, but so I always kind of like was really, I grew up watching the All Blacks. I mean, I had All Blacks posters in my room along with USA Rugby posters. In my room, I was a big rugby fan. I always thought, man, New Zealand just seems like such an amazing place. I've heard a lot about it. So that's what kind of, I was like, well, maybe going down to New Zealand would be a good idea. And Salty is like, absolutely. So it was actually Alex McElby. So since I had played in the sevens, I had communicated with Alex a bit. I think he was at a high performance role at that time with the sevens or USA Rugby program, and he put me in an email chain with a couple of clubs because Alex McElby played down for Silverdale and North Harbor. One of a few Americans, Todd Clever as well, went down there. So Mags put me in contact with a couple different clubs and just said, "Hey, this is Ryan Matyas, former sevens player, center, wing, fullback, nine. Does anyone have any room or any interest?" And the only team that came back to me was the East Coast Bays. And so through that email chain, it was like, "Yep, sweet. We got a place for you to live and a concrete job. Rent is $100 a month, and you pay that rent." And then when I landed there, um, yeah, pretty much went to a sevens trial on the weekend and or on the week, I guess. Didn't make the Harbor Sevens team, but I got to play one of my buddies who's now playing in Japan. He's like, "Hey man, like, do you want to play for our club team? We're the only club team in this whole this tournament this weekend. Everyone else is going to be all the ITM teams, the sevens teams. So Harbor, Auckland. It's called the Auckland Sevens, but they played it at Northcote's ground. She's like, "That's my team, Northcote. You play for me and play for us, and we get to play against these teams." And we ended up, him and I ended up doing pretty well. And then we got from that tournament, we got selected to the North Harbor team for that sevens run. And so I played sevens for them. Never made never made the nationals, the team for nationals, which was obviously a bummer. Um, Through me playing for the USA Sevens, I'd already been capped with sevens, and one thing I always, obviously it was a bummer for me not being able to play in that national spot, but I really respect and understand the New Zealand Rugby Union because they're like, "Hey man, like this seventh comp is to develop all blacks, sevens and 15s, and giving you a spot on this roster. We take away a spot from a kid who's lived in this area, from this area, plays in this comp, who potentially could go on later down the years and make one of these either ITM teams or super teams or all blacks or whatever. So, then he's like, I spoke to someone in New Zealand Rugby Union. There's an email, and they're like, our job is to develop all blacks, and we have to put that at the forefront of all the decisions that we make around players in our competition. And again, I was bummed out, but I'm like, I was bummed out that I couldn't play, but I was also like, man, like that's really really cool, because a union was able to be like, it doesn't matter how good this person is. Our job is to develop our national team. We're going to pick people and put people in line to have those development opportunities for our national team. So that was a cool kind of eye opener understanding for me, just a peek into the window of New Zealand rugby. And but I did actually work for the New Zealand Rugby Union as well while I was there. I took my level 200 course through them, and I worked. Then after I finished my course, I got offered a job by the New Zealand Rugby Union to be a youth development officer. So I just got to go into a bunch of elementary schools and teach rugby to little New Zealanders. It's just pretty funny. Here as an American teaching Kiwis about rugby. So that was really really cool. That was a great opportunity. And then later, after that course, because it was kind of like what was that? That was a summer course or spring course, and then the next one was being a youth development officer. So then I got to basically, an assignment would come through every week, and hey Ryan, on Tuesday you're going to be with Long Bay College, and basically Long Bay College would be like, we need help with our backs need help with their running lines. They would submit that to the North Harbor Rugby Union or New Zealand Rugby Union, and then that would then get dispersed down to North Harbor. North Harbor would go, sweet, who's our guy in this area? Bang, you go do this. Ryan, you're a back. You'll go do that. And then there are other guys who were like forwards who would like, hey, Massey Rugby Club needs help with their scrummaging. So then someone who's a scrummage, a front rower or a forward would then go and work with them. So that was probably one of my favorite coaching jobs I've ever had, because it was really cool to be able to teach some like very high rugby IQ stuff to guys who are like 14, 15, 16, and that type of rugby IQ would only really be taught in like the professional or international levels of what we were doing over here. Some collegiate players had that rugby IQ, but it wasn't all the way across the board. So yeah, that was again another amazing life experience, learning of culture, and getting out of my comfort zone, and seeing what it was like to work a full-time concrete job, and lift weights in the morning, work a concrete job, and then go play at nighttime, and do that 5 days a week, 6 days a week. That was you know I'm glad I'm not doing it now, that's for sure.
You're still kind of in a construction field.
I'm an exclusive distributor of Gemstone Lights. Gemstone Lights is the product, and you guys actually have dealers of Gemstone Lights in Utah. That's a
Oh, there
pretty
you
big
go.
hotbed for it as well. But nah, man, what I'm doing with the lighting stuff is I would call it light blue collar work. You kind of get a little sweaty, but those those metal tracks are pretty light, and the light bulbs are pretty light. It's nothing like you know wheelbarrow and buckets full of concrete and stuff like that, and getting on the sledgy. Nah, it's I'm not doing anywhere close to that, nor do I want to be.
Coaching in New Zealand, where you looked at as an outsider, what does that compare to coaching stateside?
I mean, I think because I had the the international rugby kind of experience and that tag kind of on me, being a USA sevens player that I played on the circuit, that kind of gave me a little credibility. There still would be some people who are like, "What, an American teaching rugby?" kind of, and I'm like, yeah, well, I'm just coaching the kids. It's not like I was involved in any of their high performance stuff setups, but coaching at schools and clubs and stuff like that. But For the most part, I was met with pretty open arms, and got to have some really really good, really cool discussions with coaches on coaching philosophies and drills and stuff like that. And you know, for the most part, I mean, I really genuinely can't remember anyone being hostile or rude to me or anything. And I think that just speaks to New Zealand culture.
You've been named the director of player development for the University of Arizona. Congratulations. That's awesome. What is your mission statement for this new role for yourself?
Yeah, it's exciting to finally be able to give back to my university. I wouldn't be here without the opportunity to play collegiate rugby. It was an integral part of my journey and my growth. And it's the stage that allowed me to move on to the sevens, which allowed me to move on to USA 15s, and then professional rugby, and it all started there. So yeah, to be able to come back and join the staff of where I used to play, it's a huge honor. It's in a role that is my job is to help facilitate the next level, the next group of guys, the next guys who are coming through. I'm not sure if you saw it was announced today, but EJ Freeman just won the Rudy Schultz Award, I believe. I think I read that right. I'll have to double check that, but he's someone, and this is actually I started the role back in January. It just we were waiting with the alumni. They wanted to announce it officially at the alumni at the big alumni weekend and stuff like that. So yeah, it's been really really cool to kind of officially be able to be a player mentor, really, working with guys who want to do the things that I've done. They want to represent their country in sevens. They want to represent their country in 15s. They want to play professional rugby, and myself navigating those pathways. I didn't do it like I said. I didn't do it by myself. I had some really really great mentors. Again, Salty Thompson, Brian Green. I've had some really really good people in my corner. Matt Dallow, Nahumi Tui Halamaka. My father. Um, I've had some really really great people who have they've given me their time and their effort and their attention and energy to help me navigate the wild wild west of American rugby. And I really feel like I would be doing a disservice to them if I didn't pass that knowledge down to the next generation. And coming back to this role, I don't think that I would be, if my career was different, if I had, hey Ryan, here's the USA Sevens jersey, and now you're here for the next 8 years, or hey Ryan, here's your USA 15s jersey, here's your first cap, and you're in it the next 4 years without a doubt. You're into a World Cup. You here, you got it, here you go, and there it is. And but that wasn't my career, and my career was pick, drop, pick, drop, pick, drop, pick. I mean, all the way through, So, but it's one of those things where you know I continued to fight through adversity, and it made me the person I am today. And I again, I don't think all of that was for no reason. It taught me so much about life. It taught me so much about myself. But now I can take that, what I've learned, and now I can pass it on to the next generation. I can take on the learnings, and I can take those learnings and I can consolidate them along with what people had told me in those difficult times, what they had taught me in those difficult times, what I'd learned from those difficult times. And I can turn around and I can go, I know what you're going through, and this is what you should do, A, B, and C, to try and get out of it. Or, hey, you're right here. You need to do A and B to try and get to over here, because, my journey was a unique one. It's I mean, somewhere, someone has like a graph of this, of like when guys get capped, there's like, and rightfully so, right? I was never the biggest. I was never the strongest. I was never the fastest. I was at times the fittest, but having a good work rate, and having character, that's really what, and being healthy at the right times, that's really what got me into teams.
Are you looking at more of coaching positions going forward for yourself? Should we expect you on the sideline of an MLR pitch? Like
Oh man,
what's the next step for you, man?
yeah. I mean, look, I got to figure out what life looks outside of rugby. I mean, um, I really do enjoy coaching. I mean, you probably hear it from when I start talking about, player development, stuff like that. That's where my heart,
Yeah.
my passion is at. And, I've sunk in a lot of time into rugby. And I really do feel like, I can add value to this growing American rugby system, in whatever capacity that could be. Specifically, what does that look like? I don't know. Obviously I got to figure that out. But it would definitely be a dream to be able to, either coach in the MLR or help the, US Academy pathways, or our collegiate, programs or anything. If as long as I'm helping push this thing forward, the way others did before me, then I think that'll be the right place for me.
Somebody came to Ryan Matyas, handed you the keys, said, "Fix USA Rugby, make it work." What are you doing?
Rugby in college is so important is because then parents can go, oh, you can go to this college, on a full-time, rugby scholarship. Yeah, you know what? I do support you playing rugby. Do it because you can still get your degree, and so then it will get a larger buy-in at the high school level, which, I mean, I think I think it'll be a trickle down effect. I think obviously as everyone continues to work to try and get it into high schools, I've been in and around the, high school rugby scene for a very long time now, and it's hard with club. I grew up playing club rugby, and we weren't attached to a school. Finding a field and finding lights and the resources, and parents were kind of like, some parents were okay with club, but other parents were like, you're not attached to a school. I don't really know what's going on here. Like, kind of uncomfortable with it. And, again, parents growing up playing school sports, rugby's a new sport. If it's at the school, it's a one stop shop. I mean, you got to start thinking like in the parent's shoes, logistics, right? You're a parent, you drop your kid off at 7:30 in the morning. If you can drop them off, they can go to school, and if they can go to school and they can play a sport at the school where they know it's safe, where they know it's, everything's by the book, everything's in line, all the fields, everything, there's locker rooms, there's bathrooms, there's everything's all there, it's on the campus. And then I can pick my kid up at 5 o'clock or 5:30, and they've had school and their rugby and they're doing it, and extracurricular stuff. Why would you like that's you don't have to like, oh, well, now I got to pick them up and then I got to drop them off and then I got to wait around and then come back and then go get them, or they got to get a ride from someone else to over here. It's just, again, it works in other places because other places aren't the US. We have to build something and grow something that fits our lifestyle, that fits, the families that we're asking, them to put their kids into. We need to provide something that fits, our, the American model and lifestyle and way of, I can drop my kid off at school and they're going to be at school and they're going to do their club or they're going to do their sport there. And it's all, it's a varsity sport at the school and you're representing your school and you have the varsity jacket and, it's a whole thing.
When you're asking somebody to do something that they're unfamiliar with in the first place, it's easier to get them to do it if they're familiar with the whole setup to get them to do that one thing that's unfamiliar. No, I totally
Exactly.
agree with you.
Hey,
I totally,
here's a new sport. Okay, and it's at some random field with a bunch of people you don't know. It's like, or hey, here's a new sport at your school that a bunch of your football player teammates are playing, and it's at your school. And it's like,
yeah,
okay, well,
done. Yeah,
let's
no,
let's see what
absolutely.
this looks like.
And I think a huge portion of that is actually the MLR being a thing. Without that major league here in stateside, there's nothing that puts it inside of our homes the same way. Without having, local guys and local teams that we can go out and see, or even if they're not local, but just on TV or on the apps that we all watch, having that system set up, it makes such a difference of like, oh, there is actually like a pathway to doing something really cool that I can still do here nationally stateside, which
Yeah.
I, it's tremendous. It's massive. And so for, like I said, when we open this, for you to have 50 caps in the league, that is going that direction, that is growing constantly. That's a huge thing, especially for my kids. I mean, my kids are 10 and 8. To be able to look up to players like that, it makes it to where it becomes a goal for them, and it makes it attainable. Um, Unlike, watching a New Zealand game, as good as they are, it it's a dream for them.
Growing up, I never wanted to be an All Black. I respected the All Blacks. I looked up to them, but I never wanted to be an All Black. It wasn't, because I'm American. I want to be an Eagle. I want to play for my country. I want to represent my country. Not just a team that obviously very successful and the most what winningest sports franchise of all time. You know, it's like, but that's not my dream. That's not my reality. My dream is, my dream was, but again, growing up, my dream was to try and play, in the Premiership or try and play in, a league overseas somewhere where rugby was professional, and again, having to, being a part of, an American league where American kids can look up to and be like, I want to play for that. It's special. It really is.
Favorite rugby moment?
Uh, kind of have like three. Um, uh, Winning a state championship with my high school team that I started playing from when I was 12 all the way till 19. That's number one. Number two would be uh, playing against South Africa and Hong Kong Sevens. I missed a meeting earlier in the week. I didn't play at all in Japan. I'd missed a meeting. My roommate and I got the timings wrong. And I'm like, dang, I didn't play at all in Japan. And I just missed a meeting midweek. I'm like, dang, I'm not going to play at all in Hong Kong. And we're playing against South Africa. And I'm on the bench, like, I'm probably not going to get in. And then all of a sudden, um, Tessie dinged up his shoulder, and then I get put in straight away, and yeah, got to score a try against South Africa. So I was like amazing in Hong Kong. The stadium was ridiculous, and then yeah, the All Blacks game. I mean, not playing against the All Blacks, and um, you know, yeah, being able to face the Haka, like that's yeah, that's insane. I mean, like I said, I grew up having an All Blacks poster and a USA Eagles poster on my wall. Um, but the All Blacks poster was them. Yeah, I can't remember what year it was. Must have been 07, 08, maybe 06. I want to feel like it was 07. I want to feel like it was like the Rugby World Cup squad, but there was a poster, and it was like a horizontal, like almost looked like the panoramic view photos, like the
Hmm.
long ones. And it was all of the All Black squad members in the, the initial, like when they go to say the haka, and they all hands on the hips, wide stance drop down, like kind of like bend their knees and with their hips, like boom. They're like, and they drop down. It's all of them in that stance in like the and it's like CGI that they're in like the jungle or something. And I had that poster on my wall growing up as a kid, and then like to be able to face the haka, to stand there and see them, you're just like full circle, like
Yeah,
this
yeah.
absolute full circle moment. And you're just like, I'm facing the haka, and then having that be like my last game, and my dad, my wife was there. I'm just like, man, I really, really, couldn't ask for anything more, you know.
And and you're one of two players to ever score a try on New Zealand from USA. That's a crazy like piece of trivia that's out there, man.
Yeah, that was this close. Look, you zoom in on it. You zoom in on it. You see my knee, and like it's like there. I mean, I'm close. Man, just by the sheer grace of God. Yeah, that was yeah, very, very lucky, very, very fortunate.
What is the synopsis to your message to everyone that wants to be in this league or just play rugby in general?
I guess, there's kind of two things, not being scared of commitment, not being scared of giving yourself completely to something. If you want something, you can get it. You just obviously have to work really, really, really hard for it. Um, you know, I mean, to the rugby aspect, it's the culture that makes us different. You know, that's what makes us different than every other sport. It's the culture, it's the community, and I know both of those things sound really, really cliche, but you know, there's a lot of instances where you'll find yourself in these situations where making the best decision to either um, you know, sacrifice going out with your friends or staying in and watching film or doing your homework or taking care of, whatever it is that you need to take care of, pushing yourself further towards that goal. Or just genuinely taking the time out of your day to care about somebody else and put yourself aside and put others in front of you, and have genuine passion and heart behind it, not doing it for any other reason besides that you want to help somebody else. Um, yeah.
Well, Ryan, you've been a stand-up guy. I really do appreciate you coming on the show. This has been awesome to have you on. I appreciate your perspective and the way that you see the game, and not only that, but also just the work ethic that you have. I looking at your story, um it is inspiring because, like you said, it's picked and then off and then picked and off, and that's hard. That's a hard thing to overcome. So, hats off to you, man. Congratulations again on 50 caps. Congrats on working at the University of Arizona. Hey, dude, it's all for you, dude. And so yeah, man, I hope that you have the best. I didn't get a clear answer out of you whether or not this is your last year or not, but I'll let you keep that close to the vest if you would need to. So
Yeah, we've got to see how this year goes. Boy, it's like it's every, maybe it's just the common thought or what I believe, but it's every player's dream to, to be able to win a championship and walk off on their own terms. And at the end of the day, how my, sporting career ends, the only person that truly knows that answer would probably be, the man upstairs.